All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Stacy Dunsworth. I am one of the success coaches in the TRIO SSS department at WSU Tech. I am also the English and writing specialist for any of you who don't know me. If you are tuning into this workshop, there are a couple key things that I want to make you aware of before we get started. So first of all, there are packets available in the TRIO office if you're interested in having those. The packets consist of copies of the slides that you'll be seeing here in this presentation. It also includes step-by-step guides for setting up your APA document, for doing the in-text citations, and for your references page. Also, it includes a copy of a sample paper with commentary written like in the margins and stuff to help explain the different caveats of the APA formatting. So if you are interested in having one of those packets, all you have to do is stop in the TRIO office and we'll be glad to get you one. Another disclaimer real quick, I do want to warn you that watching this one workshop will not make you an expert in APA formatting. APA formatting, even though it's really not as complicated as what everyone makes it out to be at first, there is still a lot to it. So it does take some practice. It takes doing a few of the papers to start to get good at it. Okay, so just to give you an idea, in my graduate school program, which I started in fall 21, I live in APA formatting. I've done APA papers pretty much every week since then, and there are still some things that I'm not sure about, so I have to go in and look them up, and that's totally fine. You're also always welcome to ask your instructor, ask in the tutoring hub, ask me, ask Leon, ask Charlie. Don't be afraid to ask questions. A lot of this is trial and error. So, please don't expect too much of yourself. It's going to take some time, and that's okay. So let's get started. Here's an overview of what we'll be going over for today. First of all, we will talk about the context of where you can expect to see the APA formatting. We'll talk about the basic components of the APA structure. We'll spend quite a bit of time on the references page and the in-text citations, just because those are the key things that instructors look for. The different caveats of the APA formatting won't be as high of a priority to your instructors as the in-text citations and the references page, because these are how you give credit for another author's work. So in giving them proper citations, then you're keeping yourself from being accused of plagiarism. So that's why your instructors focus heavily on that. And so we will focus heavily on that here in this workshop. We'll also talk about a few writing basics that you can expect for no matter what type of writing that you're doing, whether it's APA, MLA, Chicago, it doesn't matter. There are just some basic rules to follow, and we'll talk about those. And then we'll also add a few caveats for the APA version. And then after we discuss all that, do note that as we discuss it and I start to show you these things, it's going to seem a little bit confusing and a little bit intimidating at first, but that's why we're going to practice it. And we're going to walk through the steps. And then I will show you a few resources that you can use to help you do this a little bit easier. I honestly do not believe in using the templates that are available out there because they're not always correct. So I'm going to walk you through setting up a Word document in APA format for yourself. I want you to make your own template instead of relying on someone else's that may or may not be right. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about the context. APA formatting, MLA formatting, Chicago style, whatever you're going to come across, it's all about making your paper look a certain way. It's designed for simplicity, for consistency. It's really about driving the student, the researcher, the scholar, or whomever toward the content of the paper instead of trying to make it look pretty, if that makes any sense. Okay. So APA style is usually found in the sciences, especially the social sciences like psychology and sociology. You'll find it in nursing and education, in business, and more. Now, what makes APA or MLA formatting special is that this is academic writing, and academic writing is not meant for entertainment. Academic writing is all about just stating facts. It's to make it direct. Okay. That's the entire concept of this type of formatting, is that it is just making it uniform. It's giving you a pattern to follow and making you focus on what you want to say instead of trying to make someone laugh or scare someone. This is not fiction writing. This is not blog writing. It's honestly very dry. And that's okay. That's the point of it. Academic writing, again, is not meant to be entertaining. So once we get the formatting down, then we can really concentrate on the content of your paper, because that truly is the most important part of it, is sharing that information. Now with APA structure, a few things that you can always expect. First of all, you always have to have 1-inch margins. That is going to be a rule in pretty much any of the styles that you follow, but definitely APA, make sure it's 1-inch margins. Times New Roman size 12 point is the recommended font and size. However, APA 7 does allow you to use some different fonts and sizes if desired. That being said, your instructor may ask you to use a different font and size, and that's totally fine. But if there are no specific instructions given, just stick with Times New Roman 12 point. You can't go wrong with it. It is double spaced. The title page is all on its own, and it's going to look the same every time. The first line of each paragraph is going to be indented by a 1/2 inch. There are no extra spaces between paragraphs, and the page number is always going to be in the top right corner. Now, one of the beauties of APA 7 formatting versus like APA 6 is that APA 7 no longer requires student papers to have a running header in the top left-hand corner. And that's a beautiful thing, at least in my opinion. However, some instructors may still want you to do that. So if you are given directions to insert the running header, then go ahead and follow that. Okay, but if that is not specifically stated from your instructor, then just go ahead and leave it off and just do the page number in the top right corner. Now after the title page, then you'll have the body of your paper. That can be as many pages as it takes to share your information. And then the last page is going to be your references page. It is possible to have pages after the references page. This is where you might put like appendices or anything like that, but you probably won't encounter those until you are in more advanced levels of your classes. So I would say don't even worry about that right now. Let's just worry about getting the hang of the references page. Okay. So again, note that the page number is still there. It's still double spaced. Here's where it gets different though. You remember how I just said that your body of the paper, the first line of each paragraph is indented by a 1/2 inch. We're going to flip that here on the references page. And instead of it being the first line that's indented, the first line is going to remain flush left, and the lines after that in each entry will be what is indented. This is called a hanging indent, and I will show you how to set this up here in just a second. But also note that the title, it's just references for this page, that is bolded, okay, and it's centered. And then after that, there's nothing else that's centered or anything of that nature. Do note that the references need to be listed in alphabetical order according to the first letter of each line. So looking here, F, M, B, those are in order based on alphabetizing. And this is what you will do every single time. Okay, very, very important. Now let's talk about how we make the references page. So first of all, this is a standard reference entry structure. Bear in mind that not every single piece of information listed here will be available, and that's okay. Just fill in the ones that you can. What I like to point out here is that this is where it becomes important to pay attention to detail, okay? Because in APA formatting, there are a couple weird things, okay? So first of all, you are going to list the author by last name first, comma, first initial, middle initial, if available. If there's more than one author, then you list them all and you use this ampersand right here instead of just writing out and. The year refers to the year of publication. You can find this like in the copyright or the publish date. You know, it just depends on the type of source that you're using where you can find it. But again, you're looking for when it was published. Now, the title of the work, this refers to like the name of an article. Okay. And again, here's where we pay attention to detail. Okay. The title of the work, notice how that is not capitalized like what you would normally expect the name of an article to be. The first letter of the first word is capitalized. The rest of it is not, okay, unless there's a colon. If there is a colon, then you'll capitalize the first letter after that colon, and then the rest of it remains lowercase. Now, the name of the container, this refers to the overall work where you found this article or where you found this information. So this could be like the name of a journal, the name of a book, the name of a newspaper or magazine. That's what the container refers to. And again, pay attention to detail here because in books, it follows the same rule as what the title of the work that we just talked about did. We capitalize the first letter of the first word, but then none of the rest of it. However, if it's referring to a journal, then that gets capitalized. And I honestly don't know the reason for that. I wish I did. This is one that has created so much confusion for me, and it's one that I still have to look up every once in a while because I tend to get it backwards in my mind. So again, every caveat of this whole APA formatting thing, it's going to take some time to remember all these little things. So, you know, give yourself some grace. And then for the most part, you won't find volume or issue, except when you're doing like journals or magazines or something like that. If you are looking at books, then you may find like an edition or something of that nature. The pages here, this refers to the page range where you found this information. And then the URL or DOI, this is handy because this allows your reader to click on the link and go straight to your source. So that's a very handy thing. And so that is why it's important to put that in there if you retrieved this source from an online database. So just to give you some samples of the common source types. So first of all, the book, again, note down here how crucial conversations when stakes are high. This is the name of the book. Okay. Notice first C is capitalized. Conversations is not. But there is a colon right here. So we know that we have to capitalize the first word of the rest of the title. And this one was a second edition, so that does go in the parentheses, and then the name of the publisher. Now, APA 7 does not require that you put the location of the publisher anymore. APA 6 did. So technically speaking, you don't have to put that in, but if your teacher tends to follow the version 6 a little bit more, then just note that they may be looking for that location. It's going to depend on your instructor and you know what their preferences are. And now a journal article, again, note that the title of the work correlating internet, social networks, and workplace. The first word has its first letter capitalized. The rest of it does not. Okay. That is for the title of the work, but down here in italics, this is a journal. And so journal is capitalized just like you would expect it to be. And again, I don't know why that is. It just is, and it just takes some getting used to. And then this 8 right here refers to, it was volume 8, issue 4, and this particular article took up pages 802 to 815 in this journal. And then it has the DOI. Now your in-text citations will correlate with these references. Okay. So looking here at the in-text citations, it's important to remember that when you're citing your sources, you always need 2 key elements. That is the name of the source, which is usually the author, and the publication year. Okay. 2 key elements always needed. And just as a pro tip, I'm going to recommend that you seek sources that have an author or authors named for easier in-text citation. It's when you don't have authors listed that it can get a little bit hairy and a little bit confusing. But just remember 2 key elements. 1, the source name, that's the author, and the publication year. Now, how you put these citations in depends on like how many authors there are. So for example, if there's just one author, then you just list the one author's name, comma, and then the publication year, and that's it. If there are works with no author, then again, this is why it can be a little bit confusing, because then you'll have to use like a shortened version of the work's title instead of the author's name, and that's okay. If you're using a corporate or an organizational author, then you just put that in there in place of the author name. Now, works with multiple authors, this is one to pay close attention to. If you are listing something that has only 2 authors, then you put in both authors' names with the ampersand in it, just like over here, like where it says Dunsworth and Moore, comma 2020. Okay. But let's pretend that all of us in TRIO wrote a paper together. Okay. That would be more than 3 of us, or that would be more than 2 authors listed. That would be 4. So anytime you have sources with 3 or more authors, you list the first author name followed by et al. Et space al period. And et al is Latin for and others. Okay, so you would just put that in the parentheses, first name that's listed on the source. So Dunsworth et al. Period, and then your comma, and then the year of publication. Now, if you are using direct quotes from your source, then you're going to include those in quotation marks. You're going to have those 2 key elements, the source name and the publication year, but you're also going to add the page number where you found it. Okay, so let's do a little bit of practice with this just to maybe make a little bit more sense. Okay, so I'm going to open a sample references page. Now, this references page is from a paper that I did a while back. So note that right here, it does have the 17. This is the page number. And then it is listed in alphabetical order. It is double spaced. It is hanging indent formatted. So everything right here is good. What we want to make sure now is that in the body of the writing, when I'm referencing something that I learned from someone else, I want to give them credit for it. Any work that is not technically of your own, where you have to put where you learned it. So for example, let's say that I'm going to cite this first one, Diamond R 2008. Again, what do we need in the body of the paper for the in-text citations? We need the source name, the publication year. Okay, so I'll say that down here, is what I filled in. And now I need to give that author credit for it. So at the end of that sentence, note there's no period just yet, okay? Before I put the period in, I need to give credit to that author. So I'm going to say in parentheses, Diamond, that's the source name, comma, 2008, close the parentheses, and period. Okay. Now, if I'm going to give credit to one of the other references on here, let's just say I'm going to give credit to Huxley, Binns, and Ferris. Okay, so that's two authors. We know that with two authors, we can put both of their last names into the citation. Okay. So let's say I'm giving them credit for something that I just typed up. And then in parentheses at the end of the sentence, I'll put in Huxley, Binns, and Ferris, comma. You always need a comma there. And then the year of publication. And then close the parentheses and put a period. Okay. So again, your in-text citations will directly correlate with your references page. Okay. Let's do a couple more. Okay. Let's say that we want to give credit to Krathwohl. Okay, so what am I going to need to give credit for that? Again, author name, year of publication. Okay. So at the end of my sentence here, I'm going to put parenthesis, source name, the comma, and then the year that it was published, 2002. Okay. And then the period afterwards. But let's say now that I wanted to use a direct quote from somebody, which on that note, I always recommend avoiding direct quotes whenever possible. Only use direct quotes if altering their presentation of those words would change its meaning. Otherwise, stick with like summarizing, paraphrasing, use your own words. Don't use the source's direct words unless you absolutely have to maintain its meaning and its importance. Okay. Okay, but let's say that we have to do that. So like, let's just say that we're going to quote Tisdale and Taylor right here. Okay, so this is the reference that we're referring to, Tisdale and Taylor. We're going to put their direct quotation in quotation marks. Okay. And then note here, again, paying attention to detail. We put quotation marks on either side of the line that they stated, but there's no punctuation before this quotation. This doesn't usually happen outside of academic writing, okay? It does here because we have to cite the source. Okay, so what we will do is put in the citation in the parentheses. We have to put the author. That was Tisdale and Taylor. You have to put the comma in the year. So nothing has changed there. The only thing that we're going to change now is that we have to add another comma and we have to put a page of where we found that quote. So let's just say I found that on page 7. And then we close that parentheses. And then the period goes after the parentheses. Okay. Now you can also do your citations as in a narrative style. You don't have to always put them at the end of the sentence in quotations. You can work that into the sentence structure itself. So for example, what if I say Tisdale and Taylor? Okay. And then I need the year. Oops, That was 2000. Stated that. Okay. So again, I have my source name. I have the year of publication. Okay, so I'm still giving credit for it. I'm still citing the reference. I'm just inputting it into the structure of the sentence just to give variety to the sentence structure. You don't want to structure your sentences all the same all the time. Okay, so this gives you a little bit more freedom to change up how you do it. So as another example, we could say, diamonds, and again, we need source name, year of publication. Okay, so we have diamonds 2008 book. Recommends, whatever the case may be. So you can do those either way. You can do the style where you end with the citation fully in the parentheses at the end of the sentence, or you can work your two key pieces of information, the source name and the year of publication. You can work those into the sentences. Let's do just a little bit more practice on this. Now, before we do more practice, though, I want to show you what this looks like in actual paper writing. Okay. So again, noting Huxley, Benz, and Ferris. Okay, if we come up here inside this paper, well, here's one. Here's Foley and Kaiser. Okay, so in this paper where I'm saying variety is needed to stimulate the brain and keep learners engaged, I learned that from Foley and Kaiser. So I have them listed in the references page. And then for the in-text citations, what do I need? Source name, year of publication. So notice how I put that in the parentheses at the end of the sentence. However, a few lines down, I put them and their year of publication into the structure of the sentence just to change it up. Let's see, again, what do we need? Source name, year of publication. It's really that simple. Source name, year of publication. So easy peasy. That's all you need. Unless you are doing a direct quote, and then you'll also need the page number. Okay, and again, we looked at Huxley, Benz down here and Ferris. If we look up into the body of the paper, see here, here's Diamond 2008 right here. Here is Huxley and Benz, or Huxley, Benz and Ferris 2013. Now notice here that there are two citations listed inside these parentheses, and that means that the information that I'm sharing in here, I found reference to those in both sources. So I need to cite both of them. I didn't get it from just one. I saw it from two of them. So in that case, all you'll do is put in your citation one, again, source name, comma, publication year, and then you'll do a semicolon, and then you do the same thing for your second source name, comma, publication year. So I know this seems really confusing as we're talking about it. So let's go ahead and do just a little bit more practice, okay? So let's say that we are, let's figure out the in-text citation for all these references. So again, we've already talked about Diamond in 2008. So if I am citing some information inside the body of my paper that I want to give credit to Diamond for, then that citation is going to look like Diamond, comma, 2008, and then the period. Okay, since that will be at the end of the sentence. Now, if I am giving credit to Foley and Kaiser, then in parentheses, I will put again the source name. It has two authors, so we can put both authors' last name in there. Foley. And again, we do that with an ampersand, not with writing out the word and Kaiser, comma, 2013. Now, if we're giving credit to Huxley, Benz, and Ferris, again, source name and the year of publication. Okay, so that will be Huxley, Benz, and Ferris, comma, the year of publication. So the trick here is when you are doing in-text citations for your reference list, all you are really looking at here is this first bit, because again, all you need is the author's last name, the year of publication. Okay. So if we are giving credit to Krathwohl, say Krathwohl, this is the only author listed, so no other names need to be inserted. It's just Krathwohl and then the year of publication. Okay. And now let's say that we are going to do St. Clair, 2015. Okay. So in my paper, I'm sharing about something I read in Creating Courses for Adults Designed for Learning. So I need to give credit where credit is due. I want to give St. Clair the recognition for fulfilling that. Okay. So again, source name, publication year. St. Clair. That's the only author listed, so that's the only name that we need to put in there. So we'll just say comma 2015, because that is the year of publication. So now I'm going to challenge you to do the bottom two on your own. If you are going to do an in-text citation for this particular source right here, how would you do that? Now, how would you do the bottom one? If we are giving credit to Zinn for something that we read in this work right here, how would we do that? So I'm going to challenge you to do those on your own. So feel free to pause the video and think through how you would put those citations in the body of your paper. Okay. Again, source name, year of publication. Those are the two key elements you need. Now, going back to our PowerPoint here, if you do pick up one of the packets for the workshop, there is a guide included that has the directions for how to do the citations with multiple authors, with no authors. It looks like this. And again, if you are doing this on your own, if you don't have a guide in front of you, always remember that Google is our friend. If you cannot remember how to do an in-text citation, that is okay. So let me show you this. Okay, so let's say you are in the middle of a paper, you don't have a guide in front of you. It's the weekend, so there's no one in Trio or the tutoring hub available to help you at this time. Well, what do? Well, we go to Google. So we'll put that in here. How to how to cite sources in APA. Okay. And then once you hit that, it's going to bring up some different guides for you. Okay, so again, it goes just by the author's last name and the year of publication. The only thing that may be different is if you do a direct quote, you have to include the page number also. And then otherwise, it's just a matter of like how many authors are listed. If there's only one or if there are two, then you just list the author's name, comma, publication year. The time it gets different is when there are three or more authors, and that's when you'll use the first author's name, et al. Again, that's Latin for and others. So et al, comma, and the publication year. Okay, but again, if you get stuck, remember that Google is your friend. Okay. Now let's just talk about some of the basics of academic writing, because again, remember, academic writing is not blog writing, it's not texting, it is not storytelling, it's just very dry, straightforward, it's professional, it's formal, okay? So when you're doing academic writing, to keep the style formal, there are a few things that will help you do this. So first of all, in academic writing, we never use contractions. So that means that instead of saying it's, like IT apostrophe S, instead of saying it's, we say it is. Instead of don't, we say do not. Instead of can't, we say cannot. We never use contractions, okay? Now, with the conversational tone, what this refers to a lot of times is that we never use the word you, we never use the word your, okay? For the most part, we will just use third person writing. So that's like saying the students, the consumers, the researchers. You know, we are referring to whomever we're talking about, we're referring to them in the third person. And very rarely will you be able to use first person. There are some papers and some instructors that will allow you to say I and my and use that first person voice. However, for the most part, it is important to learn to do third person, okay? So again, never use the word you, never use the word your, okay? This is very, very formal, okay, in academic writing. Now, avoid using slang terms. This can be something like hubby, wifey, you know, I honestly hate those words in general, but they are very common in everyday conversation. So there's nothing inherently wrong with them, but they're just slang, also called colloquial terms. We don't use colloquial terms in academic writing. We use the actual words. So for example, if we are indicating a hubby or a wifey, we don't say hubby or wifey, we say spouse, or we say significant other, or something to that effect. And if you have absolutely no idea how to say this in a formal way, again, Google is our friend. Okay, just go into Google and type in how to say, and then whatever you're trying to find the formal phrasing for, and then go from there. So let me show you what this looks like. Let's go into Google real quick. Okay, so back into Google. How to say hubby in academic writing. And then it will give you several different options. So like you can click here in like what is the alternative name for hubby. You know, here is a list right here that you can choose from. So choose whichever ones seem the best option to you. I will say never ever do old man Don't do old lady, nothing like that. Okay, keep it formal. So your best option would be to choose either husband, spouse, partner, something along those lines. Okay, not old man, definitely not hubby. Okay, so this is just to give you an idea. If you don't know how to say something formally, if you don't know the formal terms for it, that's okay. Go to Google. So Google is a writer's best friend. Now, with the concise phrasing, what this usually means is not using a bunch of extra fluff. We don't want to include a bunch of words that have absolutely no difference on the meaning of what you're trying to say. These can be filler words like just, very, really, basically. Those are standard filler words, as you'll hear them called. And if you are curious about what all are the filler words, you can do a Google search for that too, and just say filler words, and it'll give you recommendations for words to eliminate from your writing. And again, that's very, just, really, basically. A lot of it refers to adverbs. Adverbs are the words that usually end in ly, and adverbs describe how a verb is being carried out. So like if you are saying, I ran quickly, instead of saying ran quickly, we want to use concise phrasing in that. So quickly is an adverb, and it doesn't really add much meaning to it. It's better just to use a stronger verb. So like instead of saying ran quickly, I would say sprinted or dashed or something to that effect. Just try to find a way to say it in one word if you can. This also involves not using helping verbs any more than absolutely necessary. Helping verbs are things like am, is, are, was, were, have, has, had, be, been, being, can, could, would, should, all those things. There are 23 helping verbs. And sometimes they are necessary, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes we just use them to water the writing down. And a lot of times I think we do this because we are maybe like not trying to come across as arrogant or something like that, but it's okay to let your confidence shine through. So be concise in your phrasing, be direct, use powerful words instead of just a bunch of weak words with a helping verb or two. Okay, just be direct, show your confidence. Okay, establish your authority in whatever it is you're talking about. Now, for the special APA rules, every single style will have its own rules for like numbers, dates, abbreviations, all that stuff. So with numbers in APA, what you can expect is that it's going to be similar to other methods of writing. What we want to do here is write out the word or any number that is like 0 to 9. And then we'll use numerals for 10 or higher. And if you get into the thousands, then make sure you use your commas. So let me demonstrate what this means. We're going to go back into Word. As we would if I would do it right. Okay, so what do I mean by these numbers, right? So anything from 0 to 9, we're going to write out as words. Okay, so that is 0, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. Once we hit number 10, then we'll start using the numerals. So 10, 33, 52, and so on and so forth. If you get into the thousands, make sure that you use the commas. Whoops. Make sure you use the commas. And don't just write the letters. APA does want those commas. And it does make for easier reading when you think about it. So I'm all for that one. There are some times though when we will use both the numerals and words. Okay, these are usually like in your really astronomically huge numbers. Okay, so like let's just say that we're talking about 5.2 billion, whoops, billion people. Okay, now right here we are using numerals, but we're also using the word. That's because we're not going to write out all those zeros. Nobody wants to read all those zeros. So this will make it a whole lot easier if you just go ahead and combine the numeral value with the word. Okay. And now with dates on the title page and within the body of the paper, you use the full spelling of the month. So like right now we are in September, and then we use the day and then the year. Okay, we'll do this again on the title page and within the body of the paper. There may be some times when in your references page that it wants a date. You'll usually find these like when you are referencing videos for the most part is when you'll see that. And then in that case, it will be the year, the month, and the day. Again, don't stress too much about this now. Just know that this might happen if you have videos in your references list. And again, when you are figuring out how to do those references, use the Google search if you need to, okay? And now for abbreviations. APA 7 does allow abbreviations, but with a couple of rules. So first of all, let's just say that in my paper, we are talking about the let's say that we are talking about the, let's just say FERPA, okay? So FERPA stands for the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Now see, I know what FERPA means, but I can't expect my reader to. My reader may not have training in areas of FERPA, so they may not know what FERPA is. That means we cannot expect everyone to understand what exactly we're saying. We can't throw alphabet soup at them without letting them know what that alphabet soup means. So the first time in my paper, I would write it out. So this is the federal. Okay, so first of all, we would have to write that out. This stands for the federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act. I could type, there we go. So I have to define that for my reader first, because again, I cannot expect them to know what exactly I'm talking about if I just say FERPA. So I spell it out for them first, and then in parentheses, I'll put FERPA. And then after that first time, throughout the rest of my paper, now I can say FERPA instead of writing it all out over and over again. Now with the tables and figures, these are a little bit odd in that with the tables, APA does not want you APA does not want you to use vertical lines in your tables. So let me show you what this looks like. It's odd. It makes me laugh every time because it's just so weird. So if I'm going to I'll just show you in this paper that I wrote. Okay, so like right here, here is a table. You first have to label it as table 3. And then on the line underneath it in italics, you name what it is specifically. And then notice in the table, there are no vertical lines. I have no idea why this is, but that is just an APA thing. It'll take some getting used to, but it's all good. Again, if you do have to have tables in or figures in your writing, and if you don't remember this, it's okay. Just make sure that you Google. And yeah, APA 7 with these odd rules like no vertical lines, it does get odd. So don't expect yourself to remember every single caveat. Again, this takes time, it takes practice. So now we are going to do some practice. Okay. We're going to start by setting up our Word document in APA format first. So what you will do is, and again, there is a step-by-step guide in the packets that has screenshots and everything for how to do this, if you would like to have that guide handy. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to open up a Word document. I'm just going to get rid of all that. And now we just start from the top and we work our way down. So what I mean by this is, like on my first page, I always start with the header. Okay, well, actually, you start with saving your file, because nothing is more devastating than losing your file. Okay, so make sure you save that first. Okay. And we start with the header. We can do that in a couple ways. We can either go to Insert and Header, or I just personally double click up here at the top, and this opens up a header window. And then on the Home tab, you make this right aligned. Again, make sure that you have Times New Roman 12 point. And then on Insert, we'll say page number, and then current position. And we just want a plain number. Again, make sure that this is Times New Roman 12 point. Okay. And now we will double click below that line to close out the header window. And back on the Home tab, what we will do here is set up our font, our size, and our spacing first. Okay, so mine is already set to Times New Roman 12 point. Yours will probably not be set up for that unless you have already manually done those changes. If you haven't, go ahead and change this to Times New Roman 12 point. And now let's do our spacing. So in this paragraph section, click on this little box in the bottom right-hand corner to take you to paragraph settings. And now we want to check a couple things. So first of all, our spacing in this section, they both have to say 0 point, not auto, not 8, not 6, nothing, 0 point. Okay. And then the line spacing, we'll change this to double. And we'll say, okay. So now let's do our title page here. And what we will do is make this center aligned. And we're going to hit the Enter key. You can usually hit the Enter key either 4 or 5 times, but I'll just do 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we make this bold. And this is where you put the title. Okay. How to write in APA format. Okay. And now this is the one time you'll do this. You'll hit the enter button twice. So 1, 2. Take this off bold and we put in your full name. So Stacy Dunsworth. And then you hit enter one time from now on. Okay, so underneath your name, it is the department that you are taking your class in. So like, for example, if you are in a psychology class, you could say Department of Social Sciences. If you're in a nursing class, Department of Nursing. If you're not sure what to put on that, you can look in your syllabus or you can ask your teacher, whatever the case may be. Let's just say Department of Nursing. And then we'll say a comma and then the name of your school. And then next we do the code for your class. And you can find this usually in your syllabus too. We'll say ERN. I'm just making things up here as I go. But you can find the real ones in your syllabus, so you know what to put. Introduction to nursing, and then your teacher's name. Let's say Ms. Katie Michael. Make sure that you spell your teacher's names correctly. And then we'll put the enter button down one more time. And we're going to put the date that it's due. And remember from our discussion earlier, we write it out, the full month, no abbreviation, the day, comma, and the year. And again, this is for the day it's due, not the day you start it. And we'll hit enter one time again. And at this point, we will enter a page break to start a new page. And this is where you will start writing the content of your paper. Now your second page starts with the title listed again, centered, bolded. What did I name this? How to write in APA format. Okay, and then you'll hit enter one time again. Again, no extra spaces. And we're going to make it left aligned. We're going to remove the bold. And then something I like to do as I'm setting up my own template is I like to put in some space holders. Okay. So I know that this is where I'm going to start writing the body of my paper. And then I'm going to push enter again. And we're going to insert another page break. And this is where we'll set up our references page. So now we will go to the center again. We'll make it bold again. And we'll say references. And then we'll do one enter. Again, no extra spaces. We'll need to make it left aligned again. And now we'll set our hanging indent. So to set the hanging indent for the references page, we come up here to paragraph. Click on this little button in the bottom right hand corner again. And then in this indentation section, we're going to look at special. Click on that and say hanging. And now we'll say okay. And you won't actually see this until you start putting references in, okay? And then we come up here to the body of the paper. And here we can set the indentation for a 1/2 inch for the paragraphs. Okay, and now you'll start typing in your content. Okay, so that is how you set up the document. Now I want to show you what this looks like as you start to fill in these areas. Okay, so first of all, if you are writing your paper, I'm just going to use part of mine here. I'm just going to copy and paste it in there just so you can see what it looks like. And then as you fill this in and you keep getting more and more pages added to the body, it's going to keep pushing down your references page. So you don't have to worry about it interfering with your references page at all. And then in your references page, I like to go ahead and start making my list as I go. And that's usually just a matter of copying and pasting. If you don't want to list those references manually, there are some different sources like Scriber or a citation machine, things like that can help you put those references in. It is important though to know the basic rules just in case those citation machines don't get them correct. But let me show you what this looks like, okay? Oops. I'm going to stop sharing that for a minute. And now let's go in real quick. Let me show you how you can use these different tools for making your references page. I'm going to go back to there we go. And go back to Google. And let's just look for citation machines, or citation generator. My favorite is Scriber. It might be Scriber. I'm honestly not sure how you say it, but I say it's Scriber. And what you do in this is you enter in the title. You can enter in the URL if you're using a website, if you're using an ISBN for a book. Honestly, I think it's just as easy to put in the title. So let's say that I am going to use this book right here called Radicalizing Learning, Adult Education for a Just World. Okay. So in this search field right here, I'm just going to say Radicalizing Learning, Adult Education for a Just World. And now we're going to click Cite, okay? And now you get to choose here. Like, is this a scientific literature? Like, is this something that you found in a database? Or is this a book? So for me, this is a book. So I'm going to click on that one. And then it's going to let me look through and choose. So this is the one. Okay, and now note right here that references, it is APA 7th edition. So we are doing it correctly. And here is the citation for it. So this is the one that we put in the reference list. And then here it gives you a guide on how to put it in the in-text citation. So you can use the guide from both ways. So what we're going to do here is we're going to copy it to the clipboard. And it is in Word. And now we will paste that into our document. And notice here how it did fill in the hanging indent for us. So nothing got out of line there. What we do need to pay attention to though is the little bitty rules. Radicalizing learning, okay, that is capitalized properly with only the first word capitalized but not the second, but the rest of it is off. So we need to go ahead and fix that. Okay, again, only the first word should be capitalized. And if there is a colon, only the first word after the colon should be capitalized when you're talking about a book. And then again, if we're looking at this reference for doing an in-text citation, what will we need to put in there? We will need the author name and the year of publication. Okay, so it would be Brookfield and Holst, comma, 2010. Okay, so that is my little warning for you. As helpful as those citation generators are, they're not always correct. So make sure that you do go back and review those. And it's, again, you don't have to have expert status. Just know that you need to look and make sure that your paper, how you have it listed, matches the format on another. paper. Like if you're looking at Purdue or anything on Google, really, if you are looking on there, just make sure you're paying attention to those little details. Like, does my reference entry look like this one? Why or why not? So then go ahead and fix it so that it does look like the reference that you're using as an example. And that's really all there is to setting up your document. It's not so much confusing as it is annoying once you get through doing it a few times. It'll start to come more naturally to you. So just practice it over and over again. And if you get caught and you don't know what to do, go to Google. So Google is a writer's friend. And now for the last thing that we need to do is just one more time, I want to go through those in-text citations. Okay. So the in-text citations, again, this is what your instructor will care about more than anything. Okay. As far as the APA formatting, they care about the in-text citations and the overall look of the APA style paper, which means like the fonts, the margins, the title page, all that stuff. As long as you get the basics of those right, you're going to be fine. But what really truly matters is these in-text citations. So I would like to do just a little bit more practice, and feel free to come along with me. I'm going to do, whoops. Okay, so let's say that we are doing a citation for the first one. How would we do that? Again, what are the two pieces of information that we need? We need the source name, we need the year of publication. So if we're citing something from Leading Across Generations, a review of 5-Gen leadership, then we're going to put the author's name, Szymanski, comma, 2023. Now it's only one author, so that does make it easier. So just do author's last name, comma, 2023 in your parentheses and your golden. Now, the second one is a little bit different because it has more than 3 authors. So here's one author, there's 2 authors, there's 3 authors, there's 4 authors. So when we do our citation, instead of listing all these people, we're going to say the first author's name, and Laurie et al. Period, comma. And again, that looks like it's going to look like this. So the author's last name. So last et al, comma, and then the year of publication. And that's in your parentheses. Okay. And again, et al is Latin for and others. And I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on that author's last name. Here, let me find it again. Okay, here we go. Okay, so that author was Ken Laurie. I might not be spelling that right, and if so, my apologies. And again, there are more than 3 authors listed. So Ken Laurie et al. Period. Okay, so Ken Laurie and others is what that means. Make sure you get your period after all, and then your comma, and then the year of publication. Let's look at the next one. And again, this has more than 3 authors listed. So again, we'll use the first name or the first author's last name, followed by et al., and then the year of publication. Okay. So then for these helpful tools, we have talked about the citation generators. There is a cite feature in scholarly articles. You can usually find that like on the right-hand side. There's often a menu like where you can print or email. Here's a picture just to give you an idea of what it might look like. And if you look over here in this menu, you'll see a button called Cite, and that is one tool for developing your reference entry to put in your references list. I showed you how to use Scriber. You can also use EasyBib or Citation Machine, but again, these citation generators are not always correct. So make sure you at least know the basic rules so that you can check those to make sure that they are right, and if not, then to make the appropriate corrections. Now, some different references and guides that I like to recommend. First of all, Purdue OWL is extremely popular. I think most of your instructors will direct you to that website frequently. Scriber has some different guides as well. EasyBib also. Honestly, one of my favorite resources for learning the APA style formatting, though, is YouTube. There are all kinds of video tutorials on there. Like if you don't want to go through this whole thing like with me again, because it is so long, if you just need like a little snippet, there are some very short videos in there that are targeted to just specific areas of the APA, like just in-text citations or just a references page and so on and so forth. So don't forget that YouTube is there for you also. And again, I can't say this enough, Google is our friend. So that does bring us to the end of the presentation. I do want to thank you for being here with me today. Please don't forget to submit an activity evaluation form to get you credit for doing this workshop. And that is through your TRIO Blackboard shell. Just go to your TRIO task list on the left-hand side in the menu. And then once you bring up your TRIO task list, select the activity evaluation form, and it'll just take you a couple minutes to fill it out. I do offer one-on-one tutoring for English and writing. This does include APA formatting. So if you would like to work on this stuff one-on-one, I'd be happy to meet with you and we can really target it to whatever it is that you are having some trouble with. Tutoring sessions are by appointment only though. So to schedule an appointment, you can either email me directly at sdunsworth@wcutech.edu or call the TRIO office. You can stop in the TRIO office and talk to Zyra at the front desk, and she can help you schedule a time. We're pretty flexible in how we get the time set up. We just need that special appointment set. And then I also do offer some revision and editing feedback on papers. If anyone is interested in that, please note though that I do not review entire papers. I usually look at the second page and then I give you feedback based on what I'm seeing in that second page. And then it's up to you to apply that feedback to the rest of your paper. I do also look through real quick for anything regarding APA, MLA formatting, anything of that nature, and give feedback on that. But otherwise it is just that one page, and you know what I'm seeing like sentence wise and structure wise, you know, then it is up to you to apply that to the rest of your document. It is very important to note that tutoring is not the only thing I do, and I do have multiple students. I have multiple responsibilities. So it's very important that you plan ahead. If you are wanting me to proofread a draft for you, please make sure you send it to me at least a couple days in advance, because I cannot guarantee otherwise that I can get it back to you on the same day. So it's important not to wait until the day it's due, because I cannot guarantee that I can get it back to you in time. Also, please make sure that you email your drafts to me through my email and not through Blackboard. I don't always get them through Blackboard. So if you have any questions, concerns, or would like to schedule a time to meet with me to go over any of this or anything else related to writing, then please hit me up. I'm very passionate about writing. I really enjoy it. So, it's definitely not bothering me at all. I would love to work with you. So feel free to holler at me, and we will look forward to seeing you soon, hopefully in the TRIO office. And we wish you great days ahead in the meantime. So take care, everyone. Bye.